Our cover story of this evening's fine print is obvious. The Russian president has made his big brother's speech in Moscow, and we are here to decode what it means for the world. Let's first look at the build-up and the impact in Russia itself. Clips of the speech were on full display across the country. Amid tight security, large outdoor screens were set up for the public to watch. The speech had all shades of patriotic colors. Russia was only referred to as the motherland. The people were called soldiers and the agenda was sacrament. Putin started sharp, saying the future military plan will be decided step by step. But soon the focus shifted to the West. The Russian president squarely blamed the West for starting the war, even calling the Ukrainian government a neo-Nazi establishment. He said Russia had been forced to intervene and take what has always been theirs.
Те, кто планировали новую атаку на Донецк, на Донбасс, на Луганск, четко понимали, что следующая цель. Элиты Запада не скрывают своей цели – нанести России, как они говорят, это прямая речь, стратегическое поражение России. Что это значит? Для нас что это такое? Это значит покончить с нами раз и навсегда. То есть они намерены перевести локальный конфликт в фазу глобального противостояния.
Even as he kept circling back to attacks on the West, the Russian president also spoke about the future of the war. He said Russia wants to resolve the Ukraine conflict peacefully, but experts say the versions of peace put out by Kiev and Moscow are completely divergent. And some even say the peace table is non-existent at this point. During his speech, Putin consciously kept the nuclear threat hanging. Moscow is now officially out of the New START group. It's a nuclear arms control treaty, the only nuclear agreement between Russia and the United States. It's important to understand that these two countries have the largest nuclear stockpile in the world. Putin did not stop with just shutting the treaty down. He threatened that Russia will restart nuclear testing if the US did the same. What the Russian president said today was nothing new, though. But many experts believe that it was in a much more radical form. The invasion of Ukraine has seen a major shift in the global order. A year later, when the war is entering its next phase, there are outposts of a new Cold War, not just in Kiev and Moscow, but pretty much everywhere. All right, at this point, we're now joined by John Ehret from Washington, D.C. He is a senior policy director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION. Now, unsurprisingly, Putin has squarely blamed NATO and the West, saying they unleashed the Ukraine war and Russia was forced to intervene to stop the war. He says he wants a peaceful resolution, but fact is, the first anniversary of the war is days away and there isn't even a remote possibility of peace talks at this juncture. Just yesterday, President Biden reassured Ukraine of all possible support for as long as it takes. How do you see things panning out from here on?
I think that it's clear that the war is going to go on for some time. As you say, there is not a possibility of a serious peace process in the short term. Putin was very clear that his terms for peace involve Ukraine giving up a substantial portion of its land and a substantial portion of its sovereignty. That's unacceptable to the people of Ukraine, and they're going to continue the war as it has been for the past year.
All right, well, that is a grim but perhaps a realistic prognosis that you've given us there, given the current situation. We're also joined at this point by my colleague Anas Malik, who's reporting from Kiev. We'll go across to him in just a moment. But let me go across to our guest at this point and ask him this question. Putin is clearly keeping the nuclear threat hanging because during that address, he declared that Moscow is now officially out of the New START treaty, the only nuclear agreement between Russia and the United States. The NATO chief has said the world is now a much more dangerous place. In your view, how ominous is this development, and do you see a new Cold War taking shape in this new global order, as it were?
Putin said that Russia would stop complying with the New START treaty. It would stop implementing the treaty's provisions. This is not actually new. Russia has not complied with its New START obligations for at least 2 years now, first citing the problems of COVID and then the war in Ukraine. So what Putin has done is merely give a stamp of officiality to what was already Russian policy. The important question is why he chose to do so at this time, and I think the answer is very clear. This occurred shortly after President Biden's visit to Kyiv, and this was clearly a message that Putin is putting more pressure on the West to stop its support to Ukraine by, as you say, brandishing its nuclear threats, reminding that there is a serious aspect to the war, that it could go nuclear. The actual step means very little, but symbolically it is an important threat that we need to be considerate of.
All right, as we said, the first anniversary of this war is just days away, and is the world now a much more dangerous place, as the NATO chief has said? It may seem like it is. On that note, John Ehrer, thank you very much for speaking to WION on this important subject. Let me now go across to my colleague Anas Malik, who's reporting from Ukraine for us. Anas, a day after the US president reassured President Zelensky of uninterrupted support to Ukraine for as long as it takes, now you have Putin lashing out at the West, which is not surprising, but he has exited the new the new treaty, and that really, the New START treaty, I beg your pardon, and that is something that is causing a lot of concern around the globe.
Absolutely, rightly so. The concern is rightly so there. Neha, when we last spoke about 2 hours back, we said I said that this is the time for diplomacy to be active, and just minutes later we saw that statement coming in from Secretary Blinken, where he said that he remains open to talks and engagement with Russia on the matter. So this can be seen as an opportunity to engage with Russia on the common grounds and perhaps get some sort of an agreement, a new agreement or an understanding, because while the Western alliance has been at it, seemingly Russia seems to have been cornered, or there is an attempt to isolate Russia. That does not seem to work, though the sanctions have been there, but they seem to be counterproductive. Western diplomats argue that they will be effective in the longer run and in the longer term. So with this announcement, where President Putin has said that he's pulling out of the New START treaty, that is an indicator, or that gives vacuum for diplomats to step in, for active diplomacy to take place, and bring an end to the ongoing hostility or the conflict, be that be here in Ukraine, where I'm standing, or be that be at the larger picture when it comes to nuclear disarmament or use of nuclear weapons. That gives that window of opportunity, because peace is something that the people of Ukraine desire for, and peace not at the cost of losing their territory, but at the cost of mutual respect, at the cost of respecting each other's territorial integrity. And that is something that the Ukrainian side would be pushing to the US side in negotiations, or in back-channel talks, or in informal talks as well, ahead of the crucial President Biden address that is to take place in a short while from now, because Ukraine would not want US to bow down or seem somewhat of a back foot after this announcement. Neha?
All right, significant developments there. Fact of the matter is, the first anniversary of this war is now just 3 days away. Everybody claims they want peace, yet nobody seems willing to return to the negotiating table. Anas Malik, thanks for bringing us those details from Kiev.